All right, good morning, everyone. Thanks for attending. But today, our focus is going to be on the importance of implementing a effective lockout tagout program and how that helps meet and exceed OSHA compliance regulations. OSHA regulations are those regulations here, at least in the US, that are kind of the standard for health and safety within our organizations. And we'll take that one step further with not only is lockout tagout a safety issue and a safety responsibility, it's actually an organizational responsibility and has many tentacles across the organization and dovetails nicely with maintenance and the maintenance management solutions that you use today. And we'll take you through that today. Again, Harry, many of you know Harry from Eagle. Just a little bit about me, Dave Neuman, Director of Sales and Marketing here at Brady Corporation, based out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I do manage and oversee our enterprise software solutions, including Link 360, which is our safety management solution for lockout, tagout, and confined space, which I'll be talking about today. Our focus, as Harry mentioned at the start, is about OSHA compliance, and the risks and fines obviously are the things that we look to avoid and minimize within our organizations, in addition to just keeping our workers safe on a daily basis. And specifically, OSHA has been tracking for the past many years. There's a lot of data available on their websites, but they always report on the top 10 categories of violations every year. And this list of violations or areas tend to be the same year over year. The only difference is one particular area might leapfrog another based on the number of violations that occur throughout the year, but the categories remain consistent. We're going to highlight 4 out of the 10 violations here, just to kind of walk you through those. Hazard communication, 3,671 violations in 2019. It's been in the number 2 spot for several years. What hazard communication is the identification and labeling of hazardous materials, whether it be a drum, a box, some other type of vessel that a worker may come in contact with. Many of the common deficiencies include just lack of a written program, inadequate training, or failing to properly maintain the safety data sheets. The safety data sheets are what tell the worker what the implications are of the material and how to handle an exposure to those materials. Many of the facilities that are cited include auto repair and painting contractors, among any other facilities that either utilize and consume hazardous chemicals or produce hazardous chemicals for others. Another area that we wanted to highlight today is machine guarding. 1,743 violations in 2019, and what machine guarding is just the need to provide a barrier between mechanical pinch points and other types of mechanical hazards and a worker. Many of the violations here include failing to guard points of operation, failing to ensure that guards are securely attached, failing to properly anchor fixed machinery down. Machine guards are very common across many different industries. Machine shops, fabricated metal manufacturing are very common, and those might be machine shops in total. That's what they do as their primary job. Machine shops could be small machine shops that are embedded within a larger operation. Um, so machine guards are also one of those areas that do require inspections on a periodic basis. And many of you might have those types of inspections incorporated into your maintenance routines already. Another area that we want to call out is personal protective and life-saving equipment. Eye and face protection specifically. This has been on the top 10 list the last couple of years. Eye and face protection obviously are critical for protecting workers from exposures and flying objects. Failing to have eye protection is a critical aspect of any safety program, but it's really easy for workers to forget to put their safety glasses on, or choose not to wear those devices on a regular basis. Lockout Tagout 1910.147, number 4 on the list for 2019, and the topic of our conversation today. 2,600 violations already today as of this point in the year. Many cases, customers are cited for failing to have a program altogether, failing to adequately train or periodically inspect, or failing to use the correct lockout tagout devices where necessary. Plastics, machine shops, sawmills, just about every organization has a need for lockout tagout. From a Brady perspective, we service just about every industry that's out there. Industries may include hospitals and healthcare. It can be manufacturing, oil and gas, even entertainment, amusement parks, various facilities that have just about any building that has a boiler room or air handling equipment within the building has lockout tagout needs, and need a lockout tagout program to meet the OSHA requirements and keep contractors and employees safe while doing maintenance work. A tool that all of you have access to is this nice map of the top penalties by state. If you were to go to the OSHA.gov website today, you can actually browse the list of penalties and open investigations that are pending within your state. This is limited to the United States. It's not an international map today, but you can go through, and if you don't think it affects companies near you, I would challenge you to go out and browse this map and see which one of your neighbors might be, or someone else within your city or local area are on the list. It's quite interesting to see the range of cases and range of penalties that OSHA is levying against organizations today. Specifically related to lockout tagout, I went through the list of those high penalty cases and pulled out 2 specific ones to call out. Choice Products has a fine against them of $782,000. In this particular case, they were cited for numerous violations from program to training and inspections to devices. And not only was there a fine, but there was an amputation and injury involved with this, which then has a broader impact from a workers' comp lost time and insurance perspective. Another company, Flambeau Incorporated, smaller shop, but again, another amputation and injury incident that resulted from poor lockout tagout practices within the organization. And they've been levied a $208,000 fine in total across all of the sightings that they have for that incident. This is a real problem in organizations. Failing to maintain lockout tagout programs can be very costly from a fine standpoint. It can be costly from a risk of life and limb and time, workers availability within your organization. Many organizations have a vision and strive for creating a world-class safety culture. Not every organization has the same vision. Some are comfortable with meeting the minimum regulation requirements. Others strive to do better than that. And there's a whole continuum that organizations fall in. But as you strive for a world-class safety culture, it requires safety, engineering, and maintenance and operations to be in sync. They need to be working together, collaborating, and building best practices, processes, and operations across the organization. Lockout tagout is one of those areas that isn't limited to just safety. It isn't limited to just operations. It actually takes a coordinated effort across all three units to ensure that people are trained to do the right thing. Processes are in place to maintain their lockout tagout program, procedures, equipment, and the practices, how the workers actually do their job on a daily basis. How do they actually put the lockout tagout procedure and devices into practice are critical. And it's one thing to control and direct the activities of your own workforce. In many organizations, you rely on contractors from the outside. Those contractors, when they step into your building to do work on your behalf, they need to adhere to the same policies, procedures, and practices that you have in place for your own workers. They may face the same risks and the same hazards that your own employees face. And how do you ensure that your contractors follow your practices effectively as well is a challenge. When at Brady here, when we are out consulting with our clients, helping them evaluate the effectiveness of their lockout tagout programs and helping them by providing various products and solutions to help them as they progress with their safety program, we many times will put this scorecard in front of them. We'd ask all of you to look at your own safety practices and your maintenance program and ask yourself a few questions and see where you fall on this particular scorecard. If you look at your operation of the day and you walk up and down the equipment that your operators are using on a day-to-day basis, do you have procedures, tags, and labels that identify the hazards and the steps to effectively de-energize that equipment? Yes or no? Are those procedures accurate, and are they standardized? Do they have common symbols and language so that a worker who is working on one piece of equipment today following a procedure, when they have to do work on a different piece of equipment in a different area of your plant, are the procedures consistent? Are they able to follow them effectively? As you get beyond just the stage 1 compliance and standard stage, scalability becomes the next challenge, especially in a larger organization. What we find are many companies are very good within particular areas, many times driven by the safety leader or the operational leader in a particular area who has been diligent about ensuring their lockout tagout program is crisp in that area. But that doesn't mean that my site, just because my site in Milwaukee is, a world-class operation, doesn't mean when I look at my Spokane, Washington location or my Cleveland, Ohio location, that they have the same level of rigor and the same level of consistency that I have in other sites. So how scalable is your program across your organization? And then last but not least, sustainability. As you put a program in place, you document your procedures, you put practices in place, you deliver and deploy the right devices and equipment within your organization. How do you sustain that? There's a ton of effort, a lot of costs and time and money that's put into establishing enterprise or corporate-wide policies and programs. And those programs can easily slide. They can easily degrade over time without a focus on sustainability. How are you monitoring? How are you measuring the effectiveness? How are you improving the practice, continuous improvement practices across your program? All of these are critical for establishing a world-class safety culture in your organization. We promote this concept of 6 elements to a successful lockout program. Pretty straightforward. I think there's a lot of companies out there that talk about various elements to a successful lockout tagout program. We use 6 just to make it easy to summarize, but it starts with developing and documenting your lockout tagout program and policies, which is a given. People aren't going to do something unless there is a policy or some motivation in place to do that extra set of tasks, that extra set of work that might slow down the job they need to get done. The second is writing and machine-specific lockout tagout procedures. Writing them in a clear and consistent and effective way is important. Next, it's one thing to have a procedure, but the procedure calls out very specific points to isolate energy within or related to a piece of equipment. How do you identify those? How do we know that the disconnect on that motor control center is the correct disconnect for the assembly equipment that I'm trying to lock out? Ensuring that those isolation points are clearly marked and the markings match the procedures effectively, so that a user or a worker who isn't always locking out that equipment every day can effectively lock it out when they need to lock it out for the job that needs to be done. 4 comes down to performing training and periodic inspections. It's one thing to create a procedure and place it on or near a piece of equipment. It's another thing to ensure that those that are authorized to do the lockout on that piece of equipment, A, understand the procedure, but B, have demonstrated that they are able to effectively follow that procedure and effectively energize that equipment effectively. Up front, first time training when a procedure is written is important, but periodic inspections and ongoing monitoring is important to ensure that those authorized employees are not slacking or cutting corners in performing those procedures. Number 5 is providing the proper lockout tagout devices. Do you have an adequate supply of locks? Are the locks assigned to the right employees? Are they all color-coded consistently? Do we have the right locking devices for the circuit breakers or the valves or the equipment? That's important to ensure that your workers have the tools necessary, they're readily available, and are maintained properly on an ongoing basis. Last but not least, sustainability. Everyone talks about sustainability. I like to use, there's two elements that drive sustainability. One is daily and consistent use. So if, and it happens in our personal life just as much as our daily, our work life. If you don't follow a process or do a particular task on a regular basis, you will not get good at it. You will not develop the muscle memory and the mental consistency to do that work or perform that behavior consistently. So daily use and daily integration into the work is important. The second is continuously improve. You can't just put a program in place and wipe your hands and high five each other, attaboy that we got this done. It's about putting the program in place is just step one. You have to continually improve by observing the effectiveness of that program, identifying areas of improvement, and then making the changes to your program and rolling those changes out. Management of change is an important piece of the continuous improvement model. Brady and our Link 360 software that we'll talk about next really targets helping our customers really handle steps 2 through 6. We don't get into the business of writing policies and programs for our customers. We expect our customers to have those in place, much like we are. We're a manufacturer. We follow these steps today ourselves. We have a policy and a program in place. But Brady produces lockout devices and tools for lockout, and our Link 360 software helps with the procedure management and the sustainability of a lockout tagout program for our customers. What is Link 360? I just mentioned that briefly a second ago. It's a document management and workflow automation solution for lockout, tagout, and confined space programs. You can equate Link 360 to lockout is like Proteus MMX is to maintenance and work order management within your organization. It's a program, a solution that is targeted at optimizing lockout tagout programs and also confined space entry programs for our customers. It includes numerous components, including cloud software. So we are web-based, cloud-based software. We have number of mobile apps that provide different tools that you can take your lockout tagout program and your procedures on the go for various functions. We also integrate label and tag printing. So as I mentioned in the 6 steps, marking energy isolation points consistently is an important piece. And we have that capability with Link 360 as well. And last but not least, integration is an important piece of the pie. It's one of the ways that we break down silos between organizations and between systems. And what we're going to showcase here is Link 360 and Proteus MMX have a method for integrating lockout tagout procedures from Link into the workflows of maintenance and work order execution within your organization. Machine specific procedures or equipment-specific procedures. How do we solve that problem with Link 360? Well, our software, both web-based and our mobile apps, make it very easy for customers to implement standardized visual lockout procedures. We like the notion of visual, heavy with pictures, heavy with colors and iconography, makes it very easy for workers to understand exactly what the hazards are and the steps are that are required to de-energize a piece of equipment. We include customizable templates, which is different than an Excel spreadsheet. Many of our customers come from the world of using Excel spreadsheets, PowerPoint slides, Word documents for managing their procedures. Those are great, low-cost, easy tools to get started. But anyone that's tried to manage hundreds of Excel spreadsheets or hundreds of documents in a consistent format, especially when you have dozens of different types of individuals working on those or producing those procedures, it can get unwieldy and hard to manage fairly quickly, which is where Link 360 comes in. We have the ability to import images and label those images. And if we see here, right here on the left side, not only do we include an image of the isolation point, but we can also label that down to the specific point to make it very clear for an authorized employee to know exactly which isolation point is required for this procedure. And those labels match the individual steps. Our software is also multilingual. We provide 18 different languages, which supports global rollouts, global customers, but we're also finding just in the US, the number of multilingual work environments is growing significantly. It's no longer just an English-speaking world. If we want to keep workers safe, it's best to have procedures written in the most native tongue that they understand. So we're having more and more customers who are creating an English version, but also a Spanish version, a Portuguese version, a Hindi version for those that are expanding in India, etc. So that's a critical component. And last but not least, accountability is an important piece of Link 360. Accountability from the standpoint that we have audit and inspection processes built into the software, but also history and audit trails. So tracking who made what changes when, approval processes that are built in. So as an employee drafts up a new procedure, he or she can send that procedure to a supervisor or an operations leader for approval of that procedure prior to making it, prior to publishing that procedure as the new standard. So we've been able to cut the time of procedure writing and procedure management by over half for our customers who are coming from a manual process, whether it be Excel spreadsheets or some other format. Just from the standpoint that templates are in place, the software is optimized to use drop-down lists and easy templated boilerplate text to help standardize and streamline the creation of these procedures. Next, marking energy isolation points. As I said, many of you might be familiar with purchasing say a plastic or a metal valve tag that has a unique identifier of some kind on it. And that is an adequate approach today. Brady offers a number of these types of components or products today. But beyond that, the ability to print these items on demand as you are writing procedures or changing equipment and needing to update procedures, Do you have those tags on hand? Do you need to go order tags that come back and then identify those isolation points? The alternative that we've included with Link 360 now is the ability to print those tags using a number of different built-in templates directly from the software, using Brady's printers and our materials that are developed to withstand the harshest of environments that our customers have. So whether it's an electrical or a water or a gas, being able to use the same iconography, same color, the same labeling, but print labels out on demand that then you can apply to equipment makes the process both simpler and easier, but also much clearer and consistent in terms of how you're communicating not just the steps, but also the specific points of interest for each procedure. Next, training and periodic inspections. This is typically a two-step process. A procedure is drafted or been updated for a piece of equipment. So step one is I actually have to train the employees. I have to communicate to them that there was a change in the process or a new procedure is in place. Here are the steps to that procedure, and educate them on how to actually execute that procedure. The second part of that is documenting the results of that training. It's one thing to say, yep, I've trained everybody, but if you don't have a paper trail to show who did the training, when they did the training, and what the results of that training are, it's hard to come back and prove to an auditor if there's an incident that you satisfactorily completed all your trainings and your inspections. Thus, with Link 360, we have a mobile inspection capability built into our mobile apps that allows any one of our customers to easily scan a barcode on a piece of equipment, retrieve the procedure, and then document who they're training, what the results of that training are, and what retraining may be required or other observations that are required as a result of that training. We made this feature for mobile so that you can take a tablet or a mobile device out with you on the shop floor so that you can document those results right there at the point of training, rather than writing down notes on a clipboard and having to go back to your desk and type them in. The reports are automatically generated by using the mobile app. We automatically capture the results of those inspections, the date and time stamps, and essentially an electronic signature certifying that the user of that app had completed the inspections satisfactorily and report that back in the system. Providing lockout devices is important as well. Obviously, there's a range of different lockout devices for different purposes. We offer a large assortment of devices across many different categories. And in some cases, I would say it's very difficult to keep track of how many devices there are. If you think about just circuit breakers themselves, there are, within our catalog, there's 4 different pages worth of devices for single pole, double pole, Westinghouse, GE, Cutler Hammer, all these different manufacturers. So the question is, do you have the right devices in your, within your facility? Do you have enough of those devices? Do you know where they are? Do you know how to use them? With our lockout tagout procedure, it tells you how many devices are required for that lockout procedure, and it helps guide you through what you would need to do to make sure that workers in that particular area or on that piece of equipment have the necessary equipment to do that job. And then last, sustainability. How do we use Link 360 to drive sustainability? How do we use it to drive use on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis, and also continuously improve? Well, one method that we have available to our customers is mobile procedure verification and reporting. With simple lockout tagout procedures or minor servicing procedures that might be done by an operator on a daily basis, right? I need to clear a jam, so I'm going to stop the equipment, turn off this this valve. I'm going to unjam that piece of equipment and turn it back on. That's an example of a lockout, minor servicing type lockout procedure. But as you get into more complex lockout procedures or larger system lockouts, having a method to go in and step-by-step report the verification that you completed each step, not just the lockout, but also the re-energizing steps, is important from an audit trail perspective. We built that function directly into our smart lockout app. A user can easily come in, scan a barcode, or retrieve a procedure based on the piece of equipment that they are going to be locking out. Step through each step, reviewing the details of each step, and then verifying that each step has been completed. And then on the back end, the system automatically generates a checklist style report showing all the steps that were taken, who took them, and the date and timestamp of those. Makes audit reporting and any investigations very simple and easy with Link 360. Next is just lockout tagout printing. Lockout tags are important in part of a lockout tagout program. Lockout tags are a communication tool to inform others for the purpose of a lock and a locking device that's been put on a piece of equipment, essentially stating that, you know, Jim has locked out this for this particular purpose, and it will be locked out for this period of time. Do not remove this lock, otherwise, you know, I might be in danger because I'm working on that equipment. These tags, you know, the standard practice in most organizations is to grab a set of tags from the box in the maintenance room as you walk out to do the job, or have a set of those within your maintenance cart and fill them out with a Sharpie as you're doing your lockout steps. And as you can see, some are more diligent on being clear on how they communicate and complete those tags, and others are not. One way that we've looked at improving that communication is by providing an easy-to-use direct printing capability where a user of Link can just retrieve a procedure for the job they need to do, fill out a couple fields, hit print, and the tags get printed out in a very clear, highly informative state that can then be applied as part of the lockout tagout process. Last but not least is integration. And this is an area that Eagle Technology and Brady has been working together on for better part of a year, is providing a very easy to use method to link 360 lockout tagout procedures into the maintenance management processes within Proteus. We do this through a procedure linking feature that we built into Link 360. Those procedure links can be imported and added to assets within Proteus, and those procedures can be retrieved or viewable from within Proteus on the web, as well as from a mobile standpoint as well. It makes it really easy for a maintenance technician or an engineer or someone who has to go out and do a job to be able to quickly not only see what the tasks are for the job that needs to be done, but also know that there's hazards related to that equipment and a lockout tagout procedure needs to be completed in order to do that work. They can quickly get access to that procedure, the same procedure that has been developed and published within LINK, the same procedure that has been published and printed and hung or placed at the piece of equipment as well. Consistency in communication and consistency of information is streamlined here. It makes it really easy to get the information that's needed at the point of use. Harry, I don't know if you want to add anything else at this point.
No, and I just want to point out that with our linking, we actually prevent the technician from getting at the work order until they've confirmed the lockout tagout procedure has been accomplished.
Which is if you look at the hierarchy of control, that is a fairly strong administrative control that's been put into the work order process by limiting an ability to get to the lockout details and completing that work without reviewing and signing off that they reviewed that procedure. So what's been the impact? What we've seen so far with Link 360, we have this 650 is actually out of date. We're over 700 companies using Link 360 today. We're in 5,500 sites in 25 countries. We have over 500,000 procedures to date being managed actively within Link 360. We estimate that we've helped our customers avoid over $100 million in fines. If you think about the average fine per incident per piece of equipment is about $7,000. If you have repeated incidents across your facility and you have a lot of equipment, that's where those numbers can grow from 7,000 to hundreds of thousands of dollars if there's a major incident. So fine avoidance and risk avoidance is a big benefit that our customers see. The second is time savings. Safety and maintenance never has enough time. They never have enough resources. So anything we can do to eke 15 minutes, 30 minutes, hours out of the day makes time for other highly valuable activities to get completed as well. Just in authoring lockout tagout procedures, by cutting the time in half, taking what has been time studied at close to an hour to manage a procedure or create a procedure from scratch with Excel to doing it in Link 360, we estimate we've saved 300,000 plus hours in time writing those procedures. And that doesn't include time savings for doing audits and inspections and other workflows related to maintaining and sustaining that lockout program. Besides the hard savings here, more tangible savings of fine avoidance and time savings, you gain standardization, scalability, a tool for sustainability, in addition to accountability, accessibility, and security. And our software and our mobile apps are secure. Everything is backed up. Everything is maintained. You don't have to worry about who deleted that directory on my share drive and blew away all my procedures. You don't have to worry about who got locked out of what PC because IT changed some security policy on the PC. Everything is in Link 360. Everything is accessible 24/7 anywhere you have access to the internet. So that's a big impact on our customers and safety programs around the world. So with that, we will open up the line for questions. Let's see here. You have, let's see here, if we... Rashawn Hollis put in a question in the control panel, can Link 360 be used to replace lockout tagout logs? My answer is yes, from the standpoint if a user or a lead is using our smart lockout mobile app. I would assume lockout tagout logs are related to logging the completed lockout tagout events within a facility. I would say yes, our smart lockout app was developed specifically for that purpose, for capturing who performed a lockout tagout procedure, verifying that they have reviewed each step individually, as well as completed some basic communication checklist items as well. And that was, and that is built into the software. Other questions? Let's see here. Hands raised. I don't see. If you have a question, go ahead and just raise your hand using the GoToMeeting, and we can unmute you, and you can ask your question, or you can type a question into the question box.
I think we've done a good job today, Dave, and I want to thank you for carrying the weight on this one with my voice as it is. If anybody does have questions, our contact information is on the screen. Please feel free to reach out to Dave or myself. If you're using Link 360 already and would like to understand how the Proteus interface helps make it even more secure, we can talk about that. And if you're using Proteus and you don't have Link 360, let's get together and show you how that, again, can help your organization avoid these fines. So with that, I think we'll wrap it up. We thank you for your attendance today, and there will be a copy of this recording available on our website in the future. Thank you very much.